Under just 2 years of Joe Biden, this country is becoming a banana republic. We are a third world country, and the only thing saving us is that we have control of a first world economy for now. Let's talk about it. Hello everyone, this is Keith, and welcome to the Ghetto Sapien channel, your home of your home of inner city intelligence. So today's topic is the United States. Is it becoming a third world country under Joe Biden? I say yes. Look at the evidence. Look at the direction the country's headed in. We're not headed in a direction of prosperity. We're heading in the direction of, I think, division and poverty. Let's look at some of the signs that I kind of threw together that's indicative of failed nations and failing governments. Hyperinflation, that's one. We're not quite there at the hyperinflation point yet. No one's taking wheelbarrows of cash to the grocery store to get a loaf of bread. But things are definitely going way up in price. Energy prices are going up. Food prices are insane. People are now making different life choices because of these things. How expensive, again, energy and food has become. Rent's going up. Interest rates are going up. These are all leading to, I think, if not quite hyperinflation, but maybe stagflation and just a crippling of the American economy. Not a good thing. Next thing, we have censorship. That is usually indicative of third world countries. We have to control speech. Do you think over the years we've been moving further towards freedom of speech and allowing people to say what's on their mind, or are we falling more under government control or corporate control of what we say and think? Are you more comfortable speaking your mind today or back in the 90s and 80s? I can tell you for sure. Growing up in the 70s when you had All in the Family, Richard Pryor actually was on TV for a little bit. And later on in the 90s, you had Married with Children and In Living Color. I think that's about where it just began to start being rolled back on freedom of speech. Because back then, you could say what you wanted to say and didn't have to worry about losing your job or someone coming to your house and attacking you. You had real freedom of speech. Now, it seems like since the left especially has taken control of the major institutions, that their ideology is so weak, they have to control speech and thought, or you might challenge them and they don't know how to respond, so the only thing they can do is shut you up. So I think that's why we have censorship is becoming more and more common, and people are almost getting used to it and not freaking out when the government starts, like, say, I don't know, the Department of Disinformation. That should have, you think the press would just like have their hair on fire saying this is dangerous, but nope, again, they're getting us accustomed to living in a third world authoritarian country. Next sign is of a third world country, corrupt leaders. And I don't think there's any doubt we have corrupt leaders. We have Nancy Pelosi with her insider trading, Mitch McConnell with his China ties. Speaking of China ties, you got Hunter Biden with Ukraine, Russia, and China ties. There's absolutely no doubt that they receive millions of dollars, including the big guy, Joe Biden. They receive millions of dollars from China. We know that for a fact. It's not disputed, and that's not even digging through all of Hunter Biden's emails on his laptop, which is another thing that was censored in order to allow Joe Biden to be installed. So these things are happening, and again, they're indicative of corrupt third world nations. So we have definite corruption in our face, where we can tell. Most people have gotten so accustomed to the corruption and the cronyism that we can tell if someone's going to be prosecuted or get a slap on the wrist just by their political ideology and their political party. We know this already. I don't think anyone's really expecting much from the John Durham investigation. At least I know I'm not. Anyway, moving on. We have, how about leaders? Another third world trait. Leaders who have contempt and show open contempt for the governed. We got that. Joe Biden has predicted, or at least tried to curse us with, a dark winter of death. When's the last time you've heard a president say something like that about the American people? He's also blamed the spread of COVID on the unvaccinated with no proof whatsoever. He's not above pitting Americans against Americans in order to suit his own needs and maintain power. So we have, to me, that's showing open contempt for the government, for citizens, which is another sign of a third world country. The other thing is political prisoners. We got that. January 6th, yeah, political prisoners. Also, when you have a government that's investigating crimes, not investigating crimes, investigating people instead of investigating crimes, that to me is another sign of political corruption. And in this case, this article from Law and Crime, back about 3 years ago, it shows Letitia James. She was the incoming New York AG. She vowed to go after Trump and his family on state crimes. I mean, right there, that's prosecutorial abuse when you say you're going after the person and not the crime. This is what the Soviet Union used to do. And again, she's right out in the open with it. It said, this is Letitia James. We will use every area of the law to investigate President Trump and his business transactions and that of his family as well. We want to investigate anyone in his orbit or who has in fact, we want to investigate anyone in his orbit who has in fact violated the law. So she doesn't know any specific crimes. She's not mentioning them. She's just mentioning the people and anyone in Trump's orbit. That's wicked. And again, that is what third world nations do. I just want to point something out real quick that I thought was very interesting and very timely. Again, this is an article that's 3 years ago. But and there's a lot of hatred for Trump that 3 years ago he's still in office, and people are losing their minds over it. But I want to point out something that is that has a lot more poignancy today, given our current economic environment. This brief exchange between two people on this site, which kind of to me brings this whole debate into focus. Okay, let me see if we can find it real quick. All right, so here we go. Grumpy Girl, and isn't that interesting how leftists tend to pick like angry names, because whether the guy's in charge or not, they're always angry. I bet you now that Biden's in office, she still goes by the moniker Grumpy Girl. Anyway, so it says, Grumpy Girl says, let's hope the alleged crimes have not passed a statute of limitation deadlines. Then again, many of the Trump family crimes are probably part of an ongoing criminal enterprise. She has no proof, but again, she's not a lawyer. She's entitled to her opinion because we respect freedom of speech. All right, so what I thought was interesting was Steve Hensley's response. Again, this is 3 years ago. Nub Waxer, the word tyranny, didn't the word tyranny come to mind? No. The first thing you dreamed up was, I hope the alleged crimes have not passed the statute of limitation deadlines. Do you not see a problem with the demeanor of the AG? That's probably because you're blinded by hatred and unwarranted war against a person who was voted in by a very large portion of the population. You and your brethren are still reeling from the defeat of 2 years ago and have been preoccupied with hate, ever since, to point out to a point that the world has moved on and you guys are still in the corner screaming, not my president. In case you missed it, and I'm sure you did, now this is where it's relative today. The country is in the best financial position it has ever been. The stock market is stronger than it's ever been. The unemployment rate is lower than it's ever been. People have more disposable income than ever before. You dum-dums keep hating, and hopefully you'll miss the next term. He's your president and wins the next election. I called it last time, I'm calling it again. Okay. Unfortunately, the gentleman was wrong in that last part, but he's right in everything else. The economy is doing fantastically well. And the concern back then wasn't your 401k. It wasn't the stock market. It wasn't like war in Ukraine. It was just that I hate the president. That was the biggest topic of the day. I'm sure people secretly missed that time, when that was the biggest problem. But anyway, back to my list. So like we got hyperinflation. Sorry I had to go off on a path because I like reading the comment section. And that was really, I mean, you find gems like that in the comment section. Sometimes it's more interesting than the article itself. Anyway, so we got hyperinflation. We got government censorship. We got corrupt leaders. We got leaders who have contempt for the governed. We have political prisoners. And we also have a corrupt judiciary that investigates individuals and not crimes. All indicative of a third world country. Here's the big one that's never ever happened before, at least in my lifetime. All right. Biden invokes Defense Productivity Act for baby formula U.S. airlift. Announces U.S. airlift. That's never happened before, at least in my lifetime. President Biden agreed Wednesday to invoke the Defense Production Act to ensure that U.S. baby formula producers can acquire the material they need and launched a new U.S. government airlift of formula from abroad. All right, so we're actually flying baby formula into the country. When's the last time you remember an airlift that was coming into the United States? Usually we're the ones sending it out because we have so much to give. But somehow we effed stuff up so badly, at least this admin has, that we are now showing the world we can't feed our own children. At least we can't get our act together well enough to take care of our own children. I remember my first apartment was in Coney Island. Yeah, it was quite a mess. So I had a ground floor apartment. My wife and I had a ground floor apartment. And it was in a really high crime neighborhood. People would knock on the window every now and then, like 3 a.m. to see. We had a big, scary German Shepherd, and he would bark. And it would, they wanted to see if we were home, if they could break in and take stuff. But our dog was well known in the neighborhood, so no one wanted to break in. Anyway, so we had neighbors who were always partying. They were, having a good time. 3 a.m. on a Wednesday, wake us up because they're doing God knows what. They also had a young child, an infant. And I'd say about once or twice a week, they come knock on our door to try and get money for either diapers or formula because they were on crack. Even in our bad neighborhood, they were like an embarrassment and known to everyone in the area that they can't even take care of their own freaking child. That is what the Biden administration has reduced this country to. Other countries are wondering what is going on in the United States that they're running out of baby food. We would run like food for kids and charities like UNICEF. Now we're actually the recipients of it. That is where this left-wing government run by Biden has brought us to. It has to be a world embarrassment. I had never seen this happen in my entire life where we're actually getting food coming into this country. We are quickly becoming a third world nation under Joe Biden and the Democrats. My advice is don't vote for any of them. They need to be out of power for the next couple of years. They need to do some sort of internal. They need some introspection. They need something. They need God, really. But for now, they can't come near the reins of power. They are a dangerous party. I mean, what's next if we can't even feed our own children? I don't even want to ask. But that's my comment on this. What's yours? Like, share, comment, and subscribe.